On today's episode of the BSB Podcast, we're talking with someone who is truly the definition of the entire package, having done it all throughout his career.
He's belted out on stage. Now he's lighting up the airwaves via podcast. Specifically, if there's a mic involved, he's got it covered. So we're beyond excited to have the multi-talented Robert Bannon with us today. Thank you for joining us, Robert.
Who did I pay to write that beautiful introduction? I got flattered and flustered, and I am blushing. And thank you. I'm so excited to be here with you all. And before I hijack your show, because if you host a show, you start asking questions, and I don't want to do that to you both. I really love what you both are doing. I've seen your work. I've seen the work that you do with theater around Detroit. I moved to Detroit a year and a half ago. And when I see other people who are doing creative things and keeping art alive, it means a lot to me. So I'm so honored and excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're going to make me blush over here. Like,
See?
Thank you.
Oh. I love the line about the mic. That is clever. Yes. Come on now.
There's not a witty line that RJ can't come up with. That he just knows how to work a word there.
Let's go, RJ. Come on.
Doing what I can.
But also, welcome to Detroit a year and a half ago. But you've had such an impressive career, both on stage and screen, with such a passion for acting and singing. We're just, like I said, we're following in your shadow here. We are so excited to be talking to somebody who has kind of paved the way. But where did your passion for acting and singing really begin?
Oh, so weird to have questions thrown at me. It started in 5th grade. I grew up in New Jersey. I grew up in Richmond Park, New Jersey. I have no talented people in my family. God bless my parents. They are just regular schmegular people. I came like shooting out of a cannon. I was just joking with my husband the other day. My mom and my dad was here. And, I used to hang the curtains up in the living room and write my name on them and put on shows for my family. And I did The Wizard of Oz in 5th grade. And I told my parents I didn't want to play sports. I wanted to go to musical theater school at the Bergen Mall in Paramus, New Jersey. And they were like, oh, okay. So off I went with a little sequin top hat and little white tails. And I went very quickly. Apparently, I had some sort of talent. I don't know where, how, God, somehow, some ancestor. Sure. And I was the first musical theater class to be at Juilliard while in school. So Burton Rouser heard me in an audition very easily in New Jersey. And then I started going to school at Juilliard at 13 years old. So it just hit me and it went fast. Like it went from the school play to Juilliard within a year and a half. And then it just kind of, there's a lot of twists and turns to the story, Brian and RJ. It didn't turn out exactly like people thought it was going to when I was 13, but it turned out the way it was supposed to, and it started pretty young for me.
That is so incredible. At 13, you had a trajectory all of a sudden.
I didn't know what Juilliard was. My mom would drop me off at Lincoln Center, and I had a little card, and I would go in, and I just thought we played with friends. And, my first professional job singing was at the Beacon Theater. It was a tribute to the songwriter Laura Nyro. We sang with Patti LaBelle. I was 13 years old. It was work. I sung for governors and mayors, and I just fell into a lucky spot where I was able to do this stuff at a young age. And it's funny because when you start doing podcasts, I don't know what you all do besides podcasts. I don't know that you like theater and art because you do a podcast about it. I forget that I had this life before the podcast. Like when people bring up, oh, you've done television, you've done stage, you sing. I say, oh yeah, I do those. This takes so much of my time that I do those things. I do remember that life. And it's fun to go back and think about it because the chapters have evolved and the career has changed and the ideas and the fun has changed. But, the roots of it are, and I still do sing. I still get to go home and do 2 shows a year in New York and stuff like that. But it started as singing. It was pure singing and pure musical theater.
So purely that passion and love for the art of it.
For the art of it. And I did all the musicals in high school. And then I started to try to be professional. And so this is my famous story. I had a bad audition for Rent on Broadway. I got called, I'm 42 years old. So it was when I was 18, you still had an answering machine with the tape. And, I sent a headshot and a resume, which had nothing on it except, playing Albert in Bye Bye Birdie in Richfield Park High School. I had some music experience, concert experience. And I got a message from Telsey Casting that they were replacing a Roger on Broadway. And can I come in tomorrow and can I sing One Song Glory and be prepared to sing One Song Glory? Well, there was no YouTube and there was no way to find the lyrics, nothing. I went to my friend Mike's house, who was a big rant head, who had a VHS bootleg cassette of someone who took a camcorder to the show and played it, like recorded it. And I went home and tried to learn the words. And when I went into the audition, I botched the words to One Song Glory badly. And I changed my major. I left Juilliard and became a school teacher. That one audition made me feel like I didn't have the chutzpah, the guts, I didn't have the fortitude to stick with the business. And I did not work professionally as an actor or a singer or do anything like that I do now. If I was 18 until I was 33 years old. I gave it up for 15 years. I never did a musical. I never recorded a song. I would sing like if someone said like, oh, it's my cousin's wedding and I know you sing, will you sing a song? But I never auditioned. Nothing. Everything that has happened to me in my career, if you're going to talk about musicals that I did do, because I did eventually do Rent It, or about television like Saturday Night Live, or if I talk about the round table or concerts or recording, it all happened from 33 to 42. Nothing happened between 18 to 33 years old. I taught my 5th grade class in New Jersey.
And what jump started you back into, I mean, because that's quite a hiatus. Although I feel like when I talk to people that age range, for some reason, that does tend to be when people are like, oh yeah, I want to get back into that, or I fall back into that at this point in my life.
I call it, you want me to give you the gossipy juicy, you want the juicy answer. Okay. I'll give you the juicy answer.
We're ready.
I have a husband now and I live here in Detroit because he's a Detroiter and I moved here to the city and I'm in the city. I'm in like Detroit proper. And I learned that because there's like Metro Detroit and I know you guys are in Metro Detroit and then there's Detroit and then the people in Detroit say that didn't happen in Detroit. That happened in, Royal Oak. So I've learned about the Detroitness of it all. So I was married younger to a woman and I got divorced at 32. And when I got divorced at 32 years old, I really hid who I was for so many years and suppressed myself as an artist and as a human. And I really thought like, I'm just going to live in a little sheltered life. I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to press sexuality. I don't want to press art. I want to make my little paycheck as a teacher. I want to pay my little bills. And then I want to go home and watch 2020 and eat Chinese food on a Friday and go to bed. But the world, when me and her broke up, when she left, I was really left with, who am I? Like, I really wasn't, I don't remember who I was at 33. I hadn't been me for 15 years. Not her fault, not anyone's fault, but circumstances in life. And I remember going to my brother, who's 4 years younger than me. And I said to him, I'm going to audition for a community theater show. And I think to keep myself busy, because I had gone through a tough divorce and I felt like I don't know who I am. I don't know. I moved back home. I really restarted. And my brother said, why are you going to audition for a community theater show? Why don't you take some time and go to lessons and go to acting school and try? You're like, why don't you give this a shot?
As a psychologist, I encounter quite frequently when people just, they reach a point where they ask the question, who am I? Especially in a big life change like that. And so it sounds like you really worked on finding your identity again.
I took 3 years. I took 3 years with being by myself. I took 3 years going back home. I took 3 years to go to acting school in New York City and get a degree in acting. I took 3 years to try to figure it out. I went to see an off-Broadway show. The show was called Witness Uganda. And Visible Thread off Broadway. It was written by Matt Gould, who then wrote Lampika for Broadway, and Griffin Matthews. And they wrote this show about people going on a journey. And I really was connected to the show because it was a random TDF cheap ticket. I did not know anything about the show. I bought a $40 ticket. I went to see it in New York. I would take myself on a date every Wednesday after work. Because my therapist said, if you're going to spend money on your relationship, spend it on yourself. Fall in love with who you are. And I said, okay. And I hated it. It was very hard for me because I just didn't know what I was doing. Why am I doing this? What is the point? And I saw the show, and after the show was over, I tweeted. I didn't have, it was back in Twitter. I didn't have a Twitter account. I had a default picture of like an egg or whatever was on there. And I just tweeted the people who wrote it and said, I was really moved by your story. I feel like I'm on my own journey. And they tweeted me back. And then I said, I wish I could sing your music. And so they retweeted it and said, like, you should sing our music. And something, I swear, RJ and Brian, something, I was in my mother's house, brushing my teeth when the ding went on the phone. And I wrote back and a message and said, do you guys have a vocal coach you recommend? And he said, our show's closing next week. Matt will be your vocal coach. And a week later, I was at their apartment and we wrote my first cabaret show, which was called Unfinished Business, which then became the album Unfinished Business that I put out in 2021. And then The Road, and then I went to acting school. And the album that I put out was signed to a little jazz label. And the guy that was running the little jazz label said, it's COVID and everyone's doing an online show. And do you want to do an online show? And we should just talk to some of the people that are putting out music on my show. And I said, sure. And I went in my basement at my mom's house and we did a show called Quarantine Cabaret and Cocktails during COVID for a year. And the whole world of it just exploded and opened up for me with theater, with television, and with the podcast. And it all was because, I don't know, I took a step. So I paid a therapist like Brian a lot of money to say, take a step and the path will follow. And I was scared. And I think that when I do a show or my show, I hope my mantra of my show, this got so heavy. I'm sorry. I'm usually much more fun, is to take a step. To go for it. Like you want to open an Etsy shop. You want to travel to Italy. You want to, go to the gym for the first time. You want to take that date. You want to, I don't know, be an airplane pilot. I don't know what people want to do. I just know that I wanted to do this and I was afraid to do it for 15 years. So don't be afraid to do it and just do it. And we're going to fail and we're going to suck and it's going to be terrible. And then we get up the next day and we do it again.
I was going to say, was there a particular moment where like you felt like you arrived at the thing that you really wanted?
That's such a good question. And I have a lot of conversations with artists about it because I think and it's going to have, and you probably both feel the same way. Maybe not. Maybe you're like, I've reached the pinnacle and I'm so jealous because I feel like it always is moving. So like the things I dreamed of doing when I've done them, the goal moves. And I don't think I allow myself to sit still enough to really take in success. When I hear you talk about it or I'm here in my shadows, which is the cutest, funniest, sweetest, most flattering thing. I don't take that in. I don't know how to take that in. All I want to feel, I'm so honored and flattered. I don't know how to. So I think I still want more. I want more. And I think that's what makes us all successful, but also torture ourselves in the process of the whole thing. I want to be able to sit back and be proud. And I am. And, April 2nd, is our 1,000th episode of the Roundtable, and that to me is amazing to me. So I've been learning to try to sit still in the moment more.
It's tough though.
Brian,
That's tough.
RJ is so hard. Look, because you got another interview to do and I have another job to do and I want to keep going. And I don't know about you all, but I want my numbers to grow and I want my show to grow and I want to be able to be bigger. I want people to sponsor my show. I want to not do this for free and waste my life the rest of my, I love doing it for free, but I would be so nice to make $5 on this show. I think that those are things that I think about. So it has continued to grow. The one thing that I am most shocked about is that people come on my show. Like that is shocking and addictive. It becomes a chase and there's an adrenaline to the chase of it that I find really fun. Like that's the part that I don't think I've ever spoken about. And it's fun to talk to people who do a show like you guys, because that's my favorite part. The interview is great and fun and all that, but I love the chase. I love to find a guest. I love it.
You're like the next one, the next
Let's
person.
go right to the next one. Once I book it, I'm like, oh, damn, I got to record this interview. I'm ready for the next guest. Let's go. Who's going to say yes?
I think we can both relate to that, exactly what you're saying, especially more recently when we were like, yeah, I mean, obviously we're all passionate about similar things and it's much of where our heart is, but there is that like little bit of like almost a competitive side to ourselves, right? Like,
yes,
how much more can we do? What's the next best thing? And yeah, like, oh, who's next? Like, I'm shocked that this happened, but now I'm shocked that this happened.
And
Um,
that's how I feel. And that's what has been, I don't know. I'm not very competitive. Like I want you to get a bazillion views. I want you to get everyone you ever want to be on your show because I think there's enough room for everybody. I think I felt that way in acting. And, I learned that when I went to acting school. I went to William Esper Acting School, which was, I guess, fancier than I thought it was when I first went because they accepted me. So I was like, this can't be that good of an acting school. And then I found out that was a good and hard acting school. And I realized that people came from all over the world and spent their money like this was their college. And I was doing this after school for fun. And the one guy walked in, he had blonde hair and blue eyes, and he said, "You're my competition, and I don't want to sit by you." And I never looked at it like that. I never look at what I do as competing with your show or somebody else's show, especially in a city like Detroit, where there's not 1,000 people doing what we do here, like in New York or LA. I want you to interview everybody you want. And so I never looked at it that way. But what I did look at for young people out here who may want to do this or acting or theater or whatever is you have to work your tail off. Like that part, I know I have to do. And I knew that in acting school, I had to be good and I had to be prepared and I had to study. I wanted you to be prepared and study too, but I can only control myself. So I've learned that work ethic is really what makes you have a successful show. Is it's a grind, it's a work, it's a daily job to put on a show the way that we put on a show.
I mean, 1,000%. I started this even before Archie came on. I kind of drug him with me, but I had started because COVID. I needed a hobby. I had nothing else to do, so I was writing for another site. And then all of a sudden I was like, well, this is like something that we can do. And then when Archie came on board, he's like, this is something we can really do. And it is. It's that grind and it's a hustle. But you're right. There's enough for everybody. It's not a fight.
Absolutely. And so that's why I'm so excited and grateful to be here. And then I'm going to invite you on my show. And then you're going to see how messy and unprofessional it is. And then it's going to be great.
You're doing, I mean, listen, you at the end of the day, you get a finished product. You've succeeded.
That agreed. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm taking that. I'm going to accept that. Thank you.
well, I'm going to circle back on a couple of things that you mentioned. You talked about coming into your voice lessons and then going back to acting school and all of these things. And then obviously you started working on your debut album and those pieces. Was that like, and it was I feel like a pretty fast turnaround for all of these things that, I mean, again, when we talk about hustle, you're just like on that train and it's going and going and going. Is that something that like before it happened, you ever thought like, oh yeah, I want to create this thing?
No, that's a good question. It's a really fascinating question because I've never thought about it. No, I wanted to put on a show. Like I knew I wanted to go to voice lessons and put on a show. I also know that my talent is to be not pushy. I have a way to get myself into a room or in an audience of somebody that I probably should not be there. So like meaning, I'm very persistent with the round table and I was very persistent about, if there's a guest I want, I could chase them for a year to make them come on my show. With the way that my show started, I felt the musical career, I did a show called Unfinished Business because I was coming back to singing. So I figured when I was in acting school, why not just rent a theater and put on a show and make my friends and family come? I did it. And then I said, well, why am I doing it here? I want to do it at 54 Below, which if you're not from New York, it's a cabaret venue. It's on 54th Street. It's in the middle of Times Square. A lot of famous people do it. And I sold myself to them in an email with no real credits of just saying that I had this story to tell. So they gave me a 9:30 spot, but they gave it to me on Thanksgiving Eve because nobody wants that spot. And I said, okay, I'm going to prove that I could get people here. So I begged, borrowed, and stealed to get people to come in there. And I had a band, and I had too much of a band. I paid too much money. I put strings on stage, and I was going to get orchestrations, and I was going to put on the show. And when I put on the show, the guy who played saxophone was the one who said, "Would you ever make an album?" And I was like, "I'm not making it. I'm just going to listen to my album." And he introduced me to this guy who was on the West Coast called Lee, and who he started LML Music. And he was like, I like your voice. I like what you do. We could put out your album." It was never a goal. None of this was ever. So then when I was with him and he was flying to Florida and COVID happened, all I did was text him and say, "I hope you get home safe," because the world had shut down. And that's what the conversation started of, "I think I want to do a show and I think you have a funny personality. Will you be my sidekick? Would you do the show with me?" It all just kind of took its own life. I never set out to do I'm scared of it. I'm scared of everything. I think the universe needs to shove it in my face. That was me then. Now I have a whole different set of I think you get to a certain age and you do a certain amount of stuff. Then now I don't feel insecure. And now I think about what I want to do. But back then, I would have never been smart enough or had the wherewithal to come up with this by myself. Ever, never, ever, ever, ever. And even when the Quarantine Cabaret and Cocktails ended, which is the show that we did for a year, and it did not do as big numbers as I'm not trying to be a braggy, but it wasn't super successful. It did not have, it wasn't a daily show, it was once a week. It was fun. It was corny and goofy and we didn't know what we were doing. When I left it, I gave it up for 6 months because I thought when he stopped, I wouldn't be able to do it on my own. And I went to my friend Robbie Roselle, who directs my cabaret shows, and he said to me, "You could probably do the show by yourself." And I said, "No, I don't know anybody. Like, no one will do my show." And he said, "Call it the Round Table and then do it twice a month." And then it just grew. And I don't know about you, but show business, the album, the concerts, the television work, the podcast, it all is about relationship building. It all is about relationship building. And that's, if you give your guests a good experience, if you give your audience a good experience, if you give the casting director a good experience, then they want to keep working with you. And then it just kind of grows from there. And I don't know what other advice to give to people other than, be a good experience for the people that you're welcoming into your house. If it's a concert or if it's an album. And when people listen to my album and listen or watch my show, it is the ultimate gift to me. It is, you could be listening to any music, you could be listening to anybody. And the fact that you share your time and spend it with me is something that I never, ever take for granted. And I just try to be the host or the singer or the actor that I would want someone to be for me and my money and my time. And that's what I try very hard to do. What you two both do is it's very hard to be authentic and natural on camera and in front of a microphone. And I just picture my mom's watching. She's the only person out there. And I'm just going to have a conversation that she's listening. And that's what the whole basis of what I do on stage and on the show is based on. None of this is, I wish I could have planned this. I planned none of this.
Some of the best things happen that way, right? Like it's completely unintentional, extremely authentic. But, and again, we've learned that so similarly with relationships and persistence, like you were talking about, just following up with people for a year. And that's exactly what it takes, especially in this space where, everyone's kind of not fighting for the time, but time is of the essence. And so you have to be flexible. You have to have that follow up and be like, if it's not tomorrow, if it's not next week, next month, next year, like we find a spot on the calendar and we're happy with it because then it happens.
That's exactly it. See, you guys, follow my footsteps.
Rob, I would just have to say, like, when we started this, like, especially specifically this year, I remember that I happened to have liked a video for Tori Calamito for the Odds vlog, and Archie's like, just write her. And I was like, no, we can't do that. You can't just write somebody. And it was the same with you as well. When you wrote us, and Archie's like, just write back. And like, let's ask. Like, to me, it's still so surreal because like, he's like, let's ask him and we can just do this. But it truly is just hospitality and being nicest, but also just, like you said, authenticity is really key here.
Well, I am so regular schmegular. The fact that you wouldn't have asked me to do the show, I taught today. I run an English department in Detroit. I have a real regular life. Sometimes it's weird, and sometimes I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky, and all of that. But like, I'm so excited to be able to talk to you all, and again, like, say to love what you're doing, and the authenticity and the. It's funny for I don't know what part of the story you want me to like where we're at, but I will. But the roundtable, for example, it started with very regular guests, but I always think big. I even think big in the classroom. Like it's reading month next month, and my principal's like, "Who do you want to come?" I want the governor here. I want I don't know. I'm weird like that. I don't think anything is not attainable. I believe that they could do things. So the first people were like some people who wrote a show. The second people, I don't know, it was like Naked Boys. Someone wrote me and said, "Can you have Naked Boys singing there in Vegas?" And I said, "Sure." And I did the second show. And I was like, I don't know. And then I started to think like I love having people on and talking to people in my life love. And I have a cousin, Adrian, who has taken over. I left New York, so I don't get to we started to do a lot of red carpets, and red carpets were really great and fun and got a lot of buzz and people really liked them. I did not like them. I'll tell you why in a minute, but she loves Eric Roberts. It's so random. She like randomly really loves Eric Roberts. So I emailed Eric Roberts' publicist, just like, "Hey, I had this show. I used to do it. I'm doing a new show." And Eric Roberts and his wife came on. I surprised my cousin, and the ball kind of rolled. I don't know why, but the ball kind of rolled. And then it just kind of, so what if I don't care. And then people would say, "Can I see your old show?" Yes, you could see my old. They're going to be a messy, fun time. But if you want to come on and have a fun, honest conversation, I'm not here to hurt anybody. I'm not here to at people. I've had controversial guests too. And sometimes people send me like nasty messages because I don't go in on them, but that's not my show. Like I'm not here to talk about a controversial drag queen. Or I had Jussie Smollett on, and Jussie Smollett was talking about a movie. I didn't talk to him about it's been done. That's not my house. That's not where I live in. You don't have to listen. You don't have to agree. You don't have to press play, but it's just not my style. That's not the kind of show that I do. So I don't know what your question was. See, I'm a bad guest.
No, that was perfect. You kind of meant when you talk about like the round table and stuff like that, as a performer, when you kind of, made a transition into podcasting, what was that kind of like for you? Because it's a different ball game, I assume,
I don't listen. I've never listened to a podcast before I did it. I don't know. I didn't know anything about a podcast. I did 850 shows without a microphone or headphones. I just did it. Like, I didn't even understand why. What does it matter if I have a microphone or not? I fought against it because I thought, like, who is listening to me in their ears? Who is listening to this mess every day? I knew nothing about it. I did not know the programming. I did not know how to upload it. I did not know how to edit it. I did not know anything about the platform of it. All I knew was music and musicals. And when I did musicals, I did My Big Gay Italian Wedding Around the World for 10 years. I did Rent for months I went back to did Rent finally as Roger and did it around the country. I did, I did a lot of television stuff. And so none of that was as me, except if I was singing on stage and doing a cabaret and telling my story about I was married, now I'm gay, and ha ha ha, and it's such a funny story, and here's my songs, and here's 10 songs about like my life. I never did I didn't interview anyone. I love interviews. I love like old Barbara Walters specials, and I love talk shows, and I loved, as a kid, I used to watch, my brother's football games or wrestling or the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade and be like, I want to be the announcer. I want to be the guy who's commentating. But I never thought I wanted to be at one point to go to school for communications. I was like, I want to be on the radio, but I don't think I have the voice to be on the radio. So I always was living in the media-ish world, but I never knew that this was an actual thing. And I think why people don't do that. Well, a lot of people do this. The people that do it, some of them don't do it well. And then some people do it and they wanted to do this their whole life. I didn't, or listen to a lot of podcasts. I don't know a true crime podcast. I don't know. What do people do? Brian, RJ, do you listen to podcasts?
I listened to D&D podcasts back in the day.
About
like
Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
Is that what it's called? Okay.
Yes. And I was like, it's more like a story mode. And so when they first asked me to do it, it was about like Marvel movies. And I was like, I don't know how to host a podcast. And they're like, it's easy. Just you get on camera and you talk with a group of people. And I was like, what does that even mean? And like, eventually you find your footing. But yeah, before that, it was like, I listened to people tell stories on like a podcast form, but it's not the same. It's kind of like this, talking with somebody about their life and their craft or what they're doing,
And I was just talking to somebody. I want to know RJ's answer, but I was just talking to someone today and they said, what is your podcast like? It is not because some people do podcasts where it's like they talk about their opinions and their life and movies and they have topics and things like that. I don't, mine is always interview style. On Thursday, now I'm plugging myself. Let's see. On Thursdays on YouTube, I go live at 7 o'clock Eastern every single Thursday. It's kind of the anchor of the show. It's a way for me to bring the people who watch and listen to me together where we have conversations. They comment. I do segments where I have like the same segments, a shameless plug about my career, or I do something called the Week in Review where I talk about what I do or my favorite thing of the week, things like that. And then I always show an interview that I did that week at the end of it. That has been the anchor of the Roundtable. The Roundtable originally was not a podcast. It was like an on-camera YouTube only show. And then the Broadway Podcast Network, because I was doing so much for Broadway, came and said, would you be interested in putting it up as a podcast? But I never did it as a podcast. I would just take the audio from the YouTube show and put it up, not knowing like, okay, I don't know what a podcast is. And then as people continued to come on the show, it became, it got picked up by iHeart and it got put on like things like that. And then I said, okay, I guess we have a podcast. So now I am conscious of it being on camera and audio, and I have to remember that, and I have to do things in a different way. And I'm still not good at it because I'll still put graphics or pictures up and not tell people what I'm doing. And I know that, and then because I did the work in New York for so long and I started doing Broadway show openings and film festivals and charity events and press days and stuff like that for Broadway, Broadway World came to me and asked me to do the Fridays national homepage story. So every Friday on BroadwayWorld.com, my face pops up and I talk to somebody about theater or Broadway. It only happened because I think I was consistent. Like I did enough work every day where I was doing interviews and I went to an event off Broadway and a press agent said to me, you should be on Broadway World or something. You come to all these events. You should do something. And I said, I want to. And he said, well, then email me and I'll email them. And then a week later, they were like, we need content. Again, it wasn't my idea. It's just, I can show up and do the work. And then, we got to all ask for what we want, but the universe will throw it at you too. I believe that truly. So, I'm going to say now to the universe, I would like a Ferrari and to win the Mega Millions. And, that works.
Absolutely. Manifest it.
Yes. So go out there and do people out here. Don't take our guess, but go out. No, go out there and do what you want to do. Ask people. Brian, RJ, you probably asked people and they've probably said yes, and you did not think that they would. Or people are listening to you and you did not think they would, and they are. So that's, it's just about do the work and the rest will follow.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say the imposter syndrome is very, very real in this. Like, I think because it can be one-sided at times because yes, we're talking to a camera and into a microphone, and sometimes those items aren't so transferable, if people aren't commenting actively or engaging.
Right.
But then when you go out into the space, and I'm sure you've experienced this, where people recognize you and they come up to you and they talk to you and they say like, oh, I listen to you or I follow you or whatever. And you're like, oh, wait, oh, yeah, people are watching what I do. And just didn't faze me at all.
There is a group of people that have watched this show that have come to see me in New York and have traveled from North Carolina or from Maryland or I had a guy come. I felt so bad. I do a Pride show in June at 54 Below. We kick off Pride every year. And I met my husband here in Detroit because I was booked for Motor City Pride. When I did the Unfinished Business album, there was a song called I Think He Knew about a dad and a son. And it became like, it was during COVID. We made a video and it did okay. And people started to book me for Pride. And on the end of the album, I do this Pride show. On the end of Unfinished Business, I sing a song called Once Before I Go, which is a Peter Allen song that was then in The Boy from Oz on Broadway. So I don't sing that song. It's so sad. It's about like he's dying and it's a terribly sad song. And it's a big giant ballad. And I end the show at 54 Below. This is my pinch me moment. This is the moment where I can buy my bio for 5 seconds. And what you all said for 5 seconds, I go around to say hello to everybody at the little bar to say thank you and thank you for coming. And a guy that I don't know comes up to me and he says, I came here from Spain and I came to see your show because I lost my partner and I love your version of Once, and I did not sing the song. And I was like, I'll sing it for you right now here. I feel so bad. But the fact that somebody could be moved by my work to take a trip to New York City to see me, I think it goes in a vacuum. I think there's 8 people that are always listening. I don't always feel the impact of it until I go somewhere or somebody tells me, or, people send me a DM or a message. It is very, very moving because you could get lost in the numbers and you could get lost in the interview and or the music and not realize that there are people out there that it does move. And for a long time being in the show business, I used to get upset when I would do a show and be like, people don't come from where's the person I co-starred in this show with? Where's the person that I was friends with that I did this musical with? And then I realized, who cares about those people? It's for that lady who comes here because she follows me and listens to my show every day, and I hope to give her some joy. I don't need the fancy person to come. I don't need the famous person from my show to come. I need whoever needs to be there. And it changed my outlook on who the show matters and who I'm trying to impress, because I'm not trying to impress so and so. I'm trying to impress the people that are there for me every day. And I think that changed the way I look at how I do my show.
I mean, that's like a big shift in kind of how you look at it, because it really is like you're impacting people's lives. And in that moment, getting to see that, I mean, that person coming from Spain, like that, like what a pivotal moment to be like, wow, one person's life that was changed, but that's still changed so much that they came here for me.
Crazy to me. It really is. It is really, really crazy to me. And I don't want to ever believe the hype, and I don't want to. There's a lot of work still to be done. So, just keep going.
So when someone kind of like introduces you in something like that, you're a performer, you're a host, a teacher, a father, and all those things. But like professionally, like what title feels most like home? Do you feel more like a podcaster now? Do you feel more like a performer? Like who are you in that professional sphere?
That's such a good question, because I ask that question on my show sometimes. Like, what are you? How do you define yourself? I love the word artist because if it is an umbrella that it feels like I could fit everything in. Okay, Brian and RZ, don't judge me. And people listening, don't judge me. I want to think of the roundtable as more than just a podcast. I used to call it a virtual talk show, because I felt like it needed to be more, it was more encompassing than just a podcast, because it's not always just my voice. And I like the idea of being a host. I like the idea of being a talk show host. I don't always look at myself as a singer anymore. And it's very hard for me to put that hat on because it's been more removed. But when I do it, I love it. And I get real sucked into the process of building a show. And I get really sucked. I don't want to ever do musical theater again. Like that is something I came to the conclusion. I have my equity card. I have my SAG card. I did the work. I did a show a summer when I was off from teaching down the Jersey Shore. It was a union show. It was a show of Frank Sinatra songs. I was so excited to book this gig. I thought this was going to be, I'm going to get a free beach house. I'm going to sit on the beach. And it was the worst show ever. It was garbage. Like after intermission, half the audience would leave. Like it would be singing to empty seats so badly that it was in the round. And my brother came to see the show and was in the front row. And I turned to him and I'm supposed to be frozen. And I was just like, save me from this show. And I realized I don't
Please.
like it. I don't want to do it anymore. And that was like, sometimes knowing what you don't want to do is as powerful as knowing what you want to do, because it kind of opened the door to do everything else. So I got to put that away and stop putting my energy and trying to fit in that box, which I did not fit in. And then open to this. So I could be a talk show. I could be a host. I could be a podcast. I'm going to embrace it. I'm a podcaster.
You could totally have a TV show and be a TV show host. I could see it now.
I would. When I first came here, I wanted to be like, can I just be Jay Towers? Can I just have the Good Morning Detroit? Can you just let me be in the little suit and let me talk to, Ann Hilda's bake shop owner? And like, that would be the joy of my life. I think that's what I want. I want to be Jay Towers.
You'd be so good at being Jay Towers. I could
what
totally
you
see
both.
that.
Thank you. I want Jay Towers to do now I want Jay Towers to do my show, so I could tell Jay Towers I'm coming for his job. I think
time to manifest it.
That's it. Watch out, Jay Towers.
Now, so somebody will hear it and be like, "All right, we're contacting Jay."
Oh, done. Thank you. See, I didn't know Jay Towers till I came here. Then I listened to Jay Towers. Then I know Jay Towers takes his kids to Walt Disney, and he's amazing. And I don't know how he's on the radio and on the news at the same time. I have so many questions for Jay Towers. And if you're not from the Detroit area, I'm sorry this makes no sense to you, but look him up. He does the radio in the morning, and he's got the two girls with. See, I'm trying to show my Detroit. He's got the two girls, and then you go to Imagine, and you buy popcorn. The money goes to Jay's kids. It goes to the Walt Disney World, and they go on the trip. And I just want to be Jay Tower. So much so that I asked my coworker at school to submit me for the teacher. I wanted to meet Jay Tower so I could tell him I want his job. They didn't pick me for the $100 gift card and whatever they give away. I don't even know what radio station or TV station he's on. I just know I want to be Jay Towers.
100.3, the Christmas station.
I'm sorry, 100.3, 100.3, and Fox 2.
Yep, Jay Towers. I've always wondered how he's on at the same time as well. Every morning I think about it.
I think he does the radio show in the bathroom and then he gets on the set. I think that's what I don't know. Do they know he does both? Is he allowed? Does he get 2 paychecks to do the show?
He might.
This sounds like double dipping. This is double dipping.
Oh man. Well, I mean, speaking of doing all of the things, I mean, you've worn a variety of hats, and even now between both your professional life, both like during the day and then in your extra time that doesn't exist, and as a family man, how do you balance all of these things now?
I have a really, really supportive husband, and he's bigger cheerleader about me than I am. He embarrasses me in public because if we go to show, my show has shifted a lot from theater to music, and music is a bigger love of my life. Not to be shady to theater, but then theater. Like I have always loved recordings, and I always loved artists and old school artists, and like I love the greats that I was listening to Frank Sinatra and Liza Minnelli in my house on yesterday, and my husband is like, "Who? You're 1,000 years old," but I love it. I had Engelbert Humperdinck on. You guys don't even know who that is. He's 90 years old. So, as the show shifted, like going to concerts and seeing musicians and stuff. So I'll go to a show of someone who's been on, and like someone will say something, and then my husband will always find a way to be like, Robert here has, and I'm, oh my God, please don't say it. Please don't bring it up. But he's so proud and so sweet. And I know that it takes away time from him. He goes to bed early. So I edit and do all my work usually after. I set time. I used to have no boundaries. And now I try to have better boundaries where if he works, he manages banks. So if he comes home at 5:30, if I get home at 4:00, I take an hour and do interviews. And then when he goes to bed, I stay up a little bit later and edit an episode and put it up. I try to fit it and navigate it. It is not always easy. It's been harder the past few months than ever to try to make it fit. And it's really thanks to him. And I don't sit still well. I don't watch TV well. I don't, I wish I was able to just go on the couch and watch Wheel of Fortune and I don't know, whatever's on TV. I don't have that really in me. So I love to tinker. So it just makes me write pitch emails. It makes me edit interviews. It makes me, post on social media, which I don't even like that either. But do you follow Brian and Orange? Be honest. Do you scroll and follow people you don't know and watch YouTube channels of people you don't know? And I don't give a crap about I don't know if I could curse. I don't care about
you can swear here.
I don't give a shit about any of these people. They watch their life. Now I have kids and I'm going to watch their new YouTube video. And then I'm going to follow people on Instagram because they have triplets. I don't care about you. I don't care about any of these. I don't get sucked into that. I get sucked into my shit here. I get sucked into the round tape. I get sucked into and Darius, my husband, is always like, can you go see a play or a movie and not think about who you can have on your show? No, I can't. I can't do it. It is just my baby in a lot of ways. So, that's just the way that I'm built. So I love it because it entertains me and it keeps me busy and out of trouble. So I try to fit it in. It's really hard. And I give him a lot of credit. He runs my house. He can clean this house. He can cook in this house. Oh my God. It's thanks to him.
We wouldn't be anywhere without him.
Yes. Thank God for him. He's right there around this door right over here. Cook dinner. Like when you're done with your interview. Oh, thank you. I'll be just starving. I'll be eating Papa John's. What's it called here? No, Little Caesars.
Oh, yeah.
Hot and
Yes.
ready pizza for the rest of my life.
But it sounds like that's really truly how you stay creative in this industry as well, is that you have the energy just to keep going. Like you just, what's that next thing? And that's kind of how you stay energized.
Is that rare? ChatGPT told me it's rare. Do you talk to ChatGPT like me? I know it's killing the environment, but besides that, which is that terrible, it's, I sometimes ask it, all right, don't judge me. I can't do all the Instagram captions anymore, and I can't do all of the descriptions. So sometimes I ask it to help it, and I give a lot of details, and it keeps a template for me, and I try to just keep it because I do it all by myself. Okay, so there's nobody helps me. So I do it all by myself. So I just want to get things done sometimes. So one day, I'll say like, okay, this is the shows this week, and it will give me like words of affirmation. It's very funny. It's not good. It's not as good as a therapist or a psychologist. So don't use it for your therapy. Brian will agree. I don't know what RJ does yet, but we will find out. What do you do, RJ?
I work in HR.
Perfect. Oh God, now I'm cursing to the HR guy. So I'm getting fired. So what happens is I go on, and it will say like, you don't give up. You keep on going. So one day I said, is that rare? Like, isn't that what everyone's doing? And apparently people quit. It gets hard. You get burnt out. You get tired. I have not gotten that yet, for better or for worse. For better or for worse.
But I do think that like for what we're doing, and RJ, I don't want to speak for you either, but I feel like there's definitely a level of like the commitment is real because that energy is just like, and the next thing, like it's like yes and, it's like almost improv. It's like yes and, what's the next thing?
But I don't know if you feel this way. There have been days where I've stacked interviews, and I've tried to get interviews done in a day when I'm off. And if I look and I have a bunch of people think it's easy, and I think it's credit to you making it look easy. But it is it can be very exhausting. It does take a lot of time. You have to be an attentive listener. I've done interviews that I've been like, wow, I did an interview with someone when I was putting out the album, and he said, what was it like to write the song about the dad that I told you about before? I said, oh, I didn't write it. My friends wrote it. Their name's Matt and Griff. And he said, so what did your dad say when you wrote it about him? And I said, well, my friends wrote it. And then he followed up a third time about me and my song. I didn't write it. So like it is harder to be good at this than people think it is. And you have to be an active listener, and you have to do some research. I know you guys spent time and read something about me. That takes time and energy, and you have to be up for that challenge. So, I've been up for the challenge.
I have to say that I don't necessarily always feel it with the interviews, but I think it's because I've been doing psychology for 10 years that like I'm used to like a 12-hour day, like on a Thursday from like 10 to 10 with no break. So, 3 interviews, I'm like, oh, that's not a big deal because when you have 8 people who are all depressed, like by the end of the 8 people, you're like, and Oof. Now I need to go home and just go to bed, so, but
it's terrible.
Like I assume that's kind of what you're feeling, you're like, okay, now I've done 4 in a row. I mean,
yeah, I teach all day. I teach 7th grade. I run an English department. I'm with the kids, and then I'm fitting in interviews. And then sometimes I'm just like, oh, I don't, this is going to be hard. But the guest usually is excited. And if I give them good energy, they usually give me good energy. And if you have a good interview, it's awesome. It's like you're flying. If you have a bad interview, which I've had bad interviews, they're hard. They're like pulling teeth. And then the time is ticking very slowly. And I don't know what else to say. So, I love when it goes well. And I look forward to it.
I have to say that I don't envy your day job. 7th graders, oof.
My babies. They're terrible sometimes, but they're so sweet, and they love on you. And I don't know. I don't want to blurk into human resources, and I don't want to listen to people's problems all day. So I'm happy being where I am. It's been 20 years almost as an educator, and then I'm in too deep now. So we're just gonna ride this out.
We love educators. That's actually what I went to school for and then didn't end up in. So
Smart,
HR will
RJ,
not
run.
be the path, but I mean, all these accomplishments, both professional and daily life. What would you say like the highlight so far of your let's be specific, of your career has been?
Wow,
within the scope of things.
That's a deep question that I've never thought of. I have sung for a lot of people, and I've talked to a lot of people. I think that, ooh, whenever You might have stumped me, RJ. This is it, RJ. And I could talk for years. I think, who
You're like this is it. The interview's over.
thank you very much. I appreciate you inviting me. I think that for me, the highlight of my career, really, my music and the television, people really loved when I did Saturday Night Live. Like my family really loved when I did Saturday Night Live, and it was the most surreal moment. And the fact that I joined a union because of SNL, the fact that SNL called me and I did 30 something episodes of Saturday Night Live up until COVID while I was in acting school. Um, I think will always be something that I'm really, really, really proud of, even if there were little parts. Sometimes they were bigger parts, but I really learned so much about it, and was very surreal to me to be there. So Saturday Night Live will always be very special to me. I don't watch it anymore. It makes me sad that I don't live in New York and I don't do the show anymore. But I loved being there very, very much. Like Harry Styles was just announced being on soon. And Harry Styles, and I did 2 episodes with Harry Styles. And like, so it makes me think about what it was like when I did those shows. Um, so I'm very, very proud of that, even though they're not big fancy credit. Like I'm not, hosting Saturday Night Live. It was fun to be there and an honor to be there. In terms of the podcast, um, you know, I loved when the show got big enough in New York that we were getting invited to Broadway openings and we were going to film festivals and we were doing, my cousin who takes over the red carpets for me now, her name is Adrienne because we still do them. And I love when she does it because I'm like, please go do them. She's doing the kids at the daytime Emmy Awards and things like that. Like there's not a ton of space. You have to fight for a spot on a carpet. And the fact that they think that we may not get the numbers of other places. We may not have a national show in the way that other people do, but we can give a good experience or we can make them feel people on the comfortable that they give us the space to do it, I think is really, really incredible. And so I love my partnerships that I've made now here in Detroit with like the theater companies and the company, if it's 313 Presents, if it's Broadway in Detroit, if it's the Aretha, if it's the different companies that I've been able to work with here, Shakespeare in Detroit, things like that. And I love the relationships I've made in New York and that I've been able to do. So I don't have a one moment. I mean, I've sung at Madison Square Garden. I've gone to Juilliard. I've sung with Patti LaBelle, but I think that it's all just been gravy and I did the cherry on top because it's never meant to have been it's never supposed to have been any of this. That was a bad answer.
Great
Terrible
answer.
answer.
That's great. And it's true to you, right? It's exactly, I feel like that's what's so cool about all of this is the paths are so winding
Very.
and
Yeah.
the crossover that you just never anticipate happening. And just jumping, I mean, especially you have moved different states and had so many experiences that people just, I think, can't even truly fathom. Which of course I think also brings interest, right? Because when we talk about like ourselves, and I think sometimes like we might lose our own humanity in the sense that people see us as something other than just like, oh yeah, like I did the same things. Like I've done different things in my life, but I'm still just a literal person.
Literally. Yes.
And so it's so interesting to hear your pathway and how it's come to be because you just can't even force it to happen. It just
Well,
happens the way
exactly. And if I can take 2 minutes and just tell you, when I was talking about Saturday Night Live, because I know that wasn't meant to happen either. I got an email from the casting director of Saturday Night Live that they were looking through backstage, like actors database in New York, and they needed somebody to play a part, and they asked me to send a current photo. And when I sent a current photo, I didn't think it was actually Saturday Night Live. I had to like Google check the email because I thought I was being spammed. And she said to me, "Oh, I can't use you because the part is required for someone with a crew cut shaved head." And I said to her, "Well, I'll shave my head to do Saturday Night Live." And she said, "It shoots tomorrow." And I said, "I will go to Supercuts around the corner and have them shave my head if you put me on Saturday Night Live." And she said, "Oh, okay, let me just ask the director, like, before you shave your head, that we're going to hire you." And I said to her, "Sometimes you got to be a little ballsy, excuse my French. And I said to her, like, this is a pre-taped commercial. Can I ever do the live show? She was like, I hire people all the time. She remembered me because I shaved my head and booked me all the time. It was for not to be political, but it was back it was Trump's first uh term when they did like the ban from the Middle Eastern countries. So the whole sketch was that everyone that was brown and Middle Eastern couldn't go through TSA, and I went through TSA as a skinhead holding a garbage bag with a gun in it. So the whole joke was like I got to go through, but they couldn't. Well, they needed this person that looked like, blonde hair, blue eyed, shaved head. So I did it. I got into the union. I got paid, and then they booked me for 38 weeks in a row, and I did it for 30. It was all because I just said like I would never think to reach out and do something like that. So while that story got weird as I talk about skinheads and guns, I know that the point of it is I got to then do a ton of stuff, and I still get paid. Like they still showed these sketches, and I still get to be in the union, and I still get to vote for the SAG Awards, and I still got to, join Equity, and I got to join the Recording Academy this year. I got to vote for the Grammy Awards because of my work. Like it's things like that that make me stop and be like, okay, when the imposter syndrome sets in, I guess somebody cares because somebody thinks I'm doing an okay job, because it's very hard for me to take that all in. So it just kind of, like I said, it just kind of happened. And when I pushed against the grain for so many years to be straight, to be married, to be regular schmegular, it didn't work. It didn't fit right. It didn't feel good. Wasn't successful. When I finally fell into the energy and the life of like what I felt I was always supposed to be, it kind of just took a life of its own. So don't push against whoever you are. Just go with it. And maybe my advice is bad, and you'll be on 8 Mile begging for money at the Meijer, playing bongo drums at the light, and because you just gave up your career for your dreams. But maybe it won't. Maybe it will be successful. The people I'm talking about at the light at the Meijer on 8 Mile.
Yes.
They're there. They have very
Yep.
nice signs and a lovely lawn chair.
Yes.
God forgive me.
Well, and us I don't know if you're into sports at all. As we're recording this, we're just closing the Olympics, but it reminds me when we talk about authenticity, I think about our golden girl, Alyssa Liu, who basically retired and quit at the age of 16 because there was so much pressure and so many people telling her how to do what she loved. And then for her to come back and be like, no, I want to do it. I'm going to be true to myself. I'm going to do it on my own terms because I love this thing. And it's not about anybody else but me and my own experience. And so that's kind of what, when you were talking, it reminded me of that, because it's like, it's true. Like when you are completely authentic, you're good. Your trajectory will go and it will just keep going because there's no one else that can be exactly the way that you are. So
Exactly right. See, I'd let you hire me, RJ. I would work for your company.
But thank you, Robert, so much for being here and talking with us. It has been such a pleasure.
My pleasure. I hope you come on my show. I'm going to send you guys all a message. And one of the greatest honors of when people come on my show is when they somehow want to be friends or send me a phone number or say, hey, we should have a cup of coffee. So I'm going to send you all my number, and I look forward to meeting you somewhere around here and having a cup of coffee and having a kiki about life on the podcast world. And my show is your show. And thank you so much for the honor of being here. I really appreciate you all.
absolutely. And speaking of your show, why don't you let the listeners know where they can find you? All of the plugs.
Well, come listen to me on the round. Tell me you found me here. Come visit me at the round table. You can find me on Broadway World on Fridays on Broadway Podcast Network, iHeart, Spotify, YouTube. Follow me on Instagram at Robert M. Bannon, because somebody named Robert Bannon in Idaho took my Instagram name and I want it back. And you could, or at the round table with Robert Bannon, and see me wherever you listen to your podcast. Just look for the round table with Robert Bannon, or go to robertbannon.com, where you could. There's not a lot of things on there anymore, but you could listen to my music and you could read about me and say hi.
There you go. You heard it here, folks. And as always, you can find us at the BSB Insider on social media at BSB Insider. Thank you again, Robert, for joining us. And for everyone else, from here in our box seats, we'll see you next curtain call.